More. We head south to Florida to talk to Greg Brown of the Pirates. It's his last spring training appearance with us, which I'm sure breaks his heart, and he wants to come on every other day all through the regular season too. But we'll let him to tell you that for sure, because I'm not sure he wants to phrase it just that way. Greg, good morning.
Well, if my voice cracks, you'll know why. I'm a little emotional, Todd.
Hey, Greg, I understand that the other day in the Pirate locker room, Paul Skenes tossed a towel to Mitch Keller. It measured 104 in the radar gun.
Well, I'll tell you what did measure 102 on the radar gun last night, or yesterday afternoon, rather, was 2 or 3 pitches, which, I don't know if you saw this. Somebody, it might have been Alex Stump, who now works for Pirates.com, covers the Pirates, and he's really good at it. He just got the gig about a month ago, but I think it was he who tweeted out the stat that said, in the pitch tracks era, which is going on 15 years now that they've been measuring velocity officially, 15 years, 9 starting pitchers, total 9 in 15 years, have thrown a pitch as hard as 102 miles an hour, and Skenes did it 2 or 3 times yesterday in his first spring training outing. I mean, he's a locomotive, and I was kidding with somebody earlier. I said, I call him locomotive, and that just might be it. Might be big train Skenes.
Oh yeah.
He just looks like just an absolute monster on the mound. He only faced 3 hitters, only threw 10 pitches, 6 for strikes, and he was done. And I think we'll probably not see him again, by the way. I don't think it'll take long in the next couple days. Pirates are going to reassign him to the minor leagues. We will see him in the Future Stars game, which will be nationally televised on Thursday night, March the 14th, with the Pirates hosting the Baltimore Orioles prospects, and they'll shine the light on both organizations who have so many big-time prospects, and I think we'll see Skenes pitch that night, but probably not again in spring training for the Pirates. But still, it gives you just a glimpse of what is to come in the not-too-distant future.
Yeah, and one of the great things about it, and I don't know that Paul Skenes would say it's so great, is every single move that guy makes, every step he takes is being covered by somebody.
I know.
He is so scrutinized.
I guess you better get used to it. Although he seems to be the kind of guy that can handle it. I don't know if you heard the name Livy Dunn, who is a gymnast from LSU, is his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And she has, I don't know how many millions of Instagram followers, but she's not quite to Taylor Swift's league yet, but in terms of the sports world, I think she might be the top female athlete.
Yep.
And it's going to be so interesting to see, because last year, I remember in Altoona, I'm sure you guys know this more than anybody, but she was there, and I guess she had to be moved into a suite because they kept bothering her. So he's going to be in the limelight, and it's not going to be long. I think this year, at some point, this year, he'll make his major league debut.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, O'Neal Cruz, he regularly hits 102, throwing it from the hole at short too.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, that is true. He's looking good too. I got to tell you, I held my breath when I saw him lunge for a ball, a little pop up in shallow left field. He reached that big claw out to try and grab it, and it dropped onto the grass. But afterward, he leaned forward and bent at the waist and held his right hand over his left side and continued to do that. And I thought, oh, brother, that's all we need right now. But he continued, and then the next bat, he got up there and he got an RBI single to left field. Henry Davis crushed a home run in the first inning.
Boy, did he.
Ke'Bryan Hayes hit an opposite field a home run. I don't know if you and I were talking about this, Todd, or not the other day, but I mentioned it in the morning with some other folks about how I was watching batting practice the other day at LECOM and saw a handful of players just crushing home runs in batting practice, including Cruz and Henry Davis and Jack Sawinski and Rowdy Tellez. And it got me thinking that it has been forever that the Pirates have had even the potential, and I underscore that. I'm not saying they're going to do this, but they have the potential, which they haven't had, of a handful of guys hitting close to 30 homers, if not 2 or 3 30-home run seasons. It's legit.
Yeah.
And you have to go way back to find out the last time the Pirates had. In fact, I'm trying to think offhand. When was the last? Was it Giles and Aramis Ramirez? Did they ever combine to hit? I know Giles had 3 years straight of 30 homers, but they just haven't had this potential, and they've got it now, including Henry Davis, who just looks like an absolute bear out there. He looked good behind the plate, by the way, catching. That's one of the storylines. Is he good enough to catch in the big leagues? Well, they're giving him every chance in this spring training, and I think he has comported himself quite well. I don't have the statistics behind it, but for me, he looks just fine behind the plate, and I would love it if they started this year with Henry Davis in the major leagues as the starting catcher.
Yeah, well, the guy's almost playing himself to the spot where he's demanding that he be left in the major leagues.
That's exactly right. It's going to be. I want, by the end of spring training, what I want is it to be so obvious that the Pirates don't have a choice, and so that now the media asking Derek Shelton and Ben Cherington, how in the world does he not catch behind the plate? He's your best option. Mm-hmm. Because I hear all the time about competition, and we're going to find out in spring training. Well, let's find out then. If that's true, let's see. And if Henry Davis performs well, because his bat is the reason he got to the big leagues last year.
Yeah.
He's a difference maker at the plate, and they need offense. And if he can just be an average catcher for now and just continue to improve, why wouldn't you want him behind the plate?
Hey, you look at this lineup, and Key Bryan was talking about it yesterday a little bit too, how top to bottom the Pirates are looking to get really strong in every batting position. I think the player who benefits the most from the return of O'Neal Cruz and the resurgence of Key Brian Hayes batting behind him, Brian Reynolds should have a monster season, I would think, with those two guys hitting around him.
I would think that is true. I would think that is also true with a guy like Hayes. And I think when you lengthen the lineup like they seem to be doing, everybody can play their game and relax. So if we've talked about Jack Sawinski being the 30 home run guy, that's definitely legit. If you look at what he's done in less than 2 full years in the major leagues, and you talk about Cruz at the top, and then now Rowdy Tellez, who 2 years ago hit 35 home runs. Everybody can just relax and play their game, and I agree with you too with Reynolds. He had his best year was when as a rookie, he and Kevin Newman combined to have 2 of the best rookie seasons of that year. When he just got up there and relaxed, didn't put any pressure on himself. I think last year, after signing the big contract, he'll never admit it. He certainly doesn't act like it. That the first few months, it was playing on him. I've got this big contract now. I'm here for long term. They're counting on me. But Cruz, and you're right, Cruz and Hayes, sandwiched between those two, he should have a monster year.
Yeah. It's getting exciting because we're thinking about here comes Pirates baseball, and this year it seems we have more to look forward to than in past years. But Greg, we say that every year. Every spring you and I talk, and we say this is going to be a really fun year to watch. And they do turn into fun years to watch, but there are some times when it doesn't seem like the Pirates are connecting. It seems like now they are.
Yeah, I think that every year for me, because I'm asked this all the time, Todd. How do you do it? The years of losing, and how do you? But for me, every year when you look back on it, is a story, and it's that's what fascinates me. Because the wins and losses, even losing 100 games, it's awful. You want to win. You want to win 100, not lose 100. But every year there are individual performances. There are young players coming up. There's a story about a veteran coming in here. The Drew Maggi story. Let's not forget that incredible storybook of a guy that spent his entire adult life in the minor leagues, never thought he'd sniff the big leagues. He got that chance last year, and the emotions and the crowd, and that's just one small speck of a long, long season. The ideal year is when you combine those stories with really good players up and down the lineup and in the rotation and the bullpen, and you win more games, of course. And that's, for me, the difference. Yeah, we talk about it. We talked about it last year. It was going to be a fun year. It turned out to be a fun year. They won 14 more games last year than they did the previous year. Look at what the Orioles did. People say it can't be done. The Orioles spent less money than the Pirates last year. And in 2021, they lost 110 games 110 in 2021. And last year, they won 101. So in 2 years, they go from 110 losses to 101 wins, and they capture the American League East. And the Pirates are doing kind of, I won't say exactly because everything's different, but much like what the Orioles are doing. They're filling their system up with outstanding talent, and we're starting to see it now bubble up to the big leagues, and Skenes being the perfect example of that.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Our final moments with Greg Brown this spring, which breaks my heart, but the other fellows will be filling in perfectly nicely in the coming weeks. We'll have Bob walk on with us next week here on Indiana in the Morning. Greg, you mentioned the word story several times. Here's my big question for you for today. Best Pirate player storyteller. Down through your many years covering the Pirates, who's able to really hold forth and tell stories in the clubhouse?
Oh, you're talking about current players then?
Current, any players, old players, new players.
Well, because what happens, many of them, the best storytellers end up being broadcasters.
They sit right next to you. It's Blassie, I know.
Because Blass is a better storyteller. Bob Walks tells a great story. John Wayner. We Michael McHenry and I have started a podcast called Hold My Cutter. It combines smoking cigars and having a beverage, but talking baseball. Like the cutter, of course, is a pitch cut fastball, and a cutter is used to cut the end off of a cigar. So we sit down, we have a nice stogie, and we chat baseball. And we're going to drop today the one with John Wayner. We sat down with him for a while, and his storytelling is phenomenal. He's hilarious. And he's so good at it. So those are the guys that tell the best stories. McCutcheon's a good storyteller currently. He really is. If you get him chatting, he's really good. There's a guy who we root for, and I don't know if he's going to make the big league club, but he's a well-traveled. He spent some time in the big leagues. His name is Brent Honeywell Jr. He's a right-handed pitcher. He's in camp as a non-roster invitee. He tells an unbelievable story about when he was growing up not too long ago in his home, Georgia, lives out in the country, and how one of their two bloodhounds walks up to the front porch with a dead rabbit in his mouth and proceeds to drop it at Brent Honeywell's feet, and he realizes it's the neighbor's bunny, a prized bunny. And this thing is it's gone. I mean, it's no more. His father, who ironically, coincidentally, pitched in the Pirates minor league system in the late 80s, early 90s, Brent Honeywell Sr., a left-hander who never made it above high A ball. But there they are, their father and son, and they don't know what to do. They're distraught because the neighbor, a couple hundred yards away, just lost a prized bunny to their bloodhound. And Dad says to Brent Jr., clean that thing up and get it back in its cage as soon as you can. So he does what his father tells him to do, and he cleans it up, makes it look alive as best he can, or asleep. And he sneaks in to the yard, and he puts it back in the cage. And it looks like it's asleep. The next day, the neighbor comes over and says, the darndest thing happened. He said, we buried our bunny last week. and he goes, and it's now in the cage. So
That's
that was the
beautiful.
story that Brent told me the other day.
That's beautiful.
Classic, an absolute classic.
I hope he makes the team just based on that.
So do I. So do I.
By the way, my podcast is called Hold My Clutter. It's all about people helping me clean my office.
I should have used that because although I've got nobody helping me clean it, it's I'm Mr. Clutter. That's a good call. I think that's I'll have to steal that from you.
Hey, Greg, thanks for a couple of weeks of good conversation on Indiana in the Morning. I appreciate it.
Todd, I always enjoy it. Thanks so much.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Greg Brown of the Pirates, and he's brought to us this morning by A&A Construction and by Delaney and Fritz PC.